Imagine someone being able to dip inside your wallet anytime they wanted to and steal from you, and on top of that, the government was completely complicit in it. That would drive you nuts. It would probably actually drive you to the point of hating those people. In a sense, it would be like having the mob on your street. You have to pay the mob in order to have your store open on that street. Otherwise, they're going to come and burn down your business. Or it would be like having a cartel that's over your area, and if you don't pay them, then bad things happen. This provokes a strong reaction in people, especially those who are living in those conditions. Well, what am I talking about? I'm actually talking about what it was like to live in the first century during the time of Jesus. You see, the Roman government was in charge, and the Roman government, after they had conquered your land, sent in another wave of people that would hire tax collectors. A tax collector was one of your own people that had turned against you and was now collecting money from you for the Roman government. And they did this in insidious ways. Conservative estimates would say they take about 30% from you, but there are some people that believe that that number could go much higher. And these tax collectors would harass people. If you paid one and ended up walking into another tax collector and he demanded you pay him, the Roman soldiers that were with him would ensure that you unloaded the rest of your money to give to him. Now, a tax collector would have to pay the Roman government, but whatever they would take on top of that, that's gravy for them. So this is a way for them to get rich. Now, the people hated tax collectors because it wasn't like the Romans were doing it. It was their own people that were actually extracting the money from them. So the Jewish people could not stand the Jewish tax collectors because they were robbing them every single day. In fact, the Jewish people hated them so much that they were disqualified from appearing in court. They were social outcasts, and they were just a disgrace to their families. It was a miserable place for someone in that profession to be, but the reason they did it was out of greed. So they felt that money would fill the hole when all of society actually hated them. So it's really interesting that Jesus actually picks a tax collector to be one of his closest friends. Jesus had done a bunch of teaching, and in Mark 2 verse 14 it specifically says, "And he passed by, he saw Levi son of Alphaeus sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, 'Follow me.' And he rose and followed him." Now you have to ask the question, how many times had Jesus walked by Levi at that exact tax booth? How many times had he seen him? Had Jesus actually had to pay money to Levi? This gets into a very personal predicament, but Jesus looks at him and says, "Follow me," and he does. So there's something there that Levi saw. There's something happening in Levi's life, possibly the rejection and the shame for holding the job of tax collector, and then Jesus saying, "Follow me," was able to just do something in Levi's life where he changed course. Now, Levi actually does something for Jesus, which is incredible. It says in the next verse, "And as he reclined at table in his house, many tax collectors and sinners were reclining with Jesus and his disciples, and there were many who followed him." So what happened here is interesting because Levi just didn't follow Jesus. He invited him into his house and then threw him a party, and Jesus went to the party that Levi had set up for him. Now, this is where we as Christians, we need to really take a step back and check ourselves, because Jesus is going to the house of someone who is absolutely hated by all of society. It would be the same as if you walked into a Tony Soprano dinner.
I thought I was the only one Junior could make look like that.
Or maybe you walked into a cartel meeting and all of a sudden you see Jesus standing there. That doesn't compute. But what this story is showing us is this is exactly why Jesus came. The next bit of the story is where I get convicted, because it says, "And the scribes and the Pharisees, when they saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, said to his disciples, 'Why does he eat with sinners and tax collectors?'" Now these scribes and Pharisees in the story, they're like the normal church people. They're people who have it together. They're people that, they can wear the mask to say that, "Yeah, everything's just fine in my life and I don't need God's help to do anything." And they're looking at Jesus going, "You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, pal." And what's Jesus' response? Jesus' response to this is really telling. It says, "And when Jesus heard it, he said to them, 'Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners.'" So what does that mean? Well, first of all, what it means is the sinners and the tax collectors that are in that room, they're the common criminal. Sinners literally means criminals. So the room is filled with criminals. Jesus is not excusing their crimes. He's not excusing their sin. But what he's saying is, I came to heal them. He goes, I didn't come to heal the righteous. What does that mean? The righteous is the person that says, I can do it on my own and I don't need God's help. And unfortunately, many times in the Christian community, from what I've seen, people fall into this category. Like, we don't need God's help in order to get sorted, but yet I'm not as bad as them. Well, guys, that's wrong. Because we've all sinned and we've all fallen short of the glory of God. And so the question is, what heart attitude are you going to possess? Are you going to take the mark of humility that says, Jesus, I need you. I need you to fix the problems in my life because I'm a mess. Or are you going to continue being the person that wears a mask and walks around pretending that everything's okay? This is the confronting part of Jesus' message. Let me just say this. Levi, his other name is Matthew, and Matthew's life was completely changed by God. So much so that he followed Jesus for 3 years. And then he went on to an incredible ministry where he was executed eventually by crucifixion in the year 72 AD. And let me add one more thing. You are reading his work today, 2,000 years later. This crazy man who extorted people, who stole from people, and who was a degenerate in society, Jesus came into his life and completely turned it around. If that's something you want, that something is there for you. In Romans 10:13, it says, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. If that's something you haven't done, this is what I would say. Get somewhere by yourself and call out to the name of Jesus. Pray to him. Ask him for help. Ask him to change you. And the process will begin. Keep a humble heart. And I hope this helps.